Everyone, and welcome to December's Tech Park Academy. We're going to be talking about crowdfunding, and we have three fantastic speakers today. So we want to get right to it. Just some housekeeping notes. If you have a question for our panelists, if you'll please put it in the Q&A section. We will monitor that throughout the presentation, and then we will ask those questions if they aren't answered towards the end of the presentation. So please put it in the Q&A. This presentation is being recorded, and so it will be available for you to view afterwards. And so we appreciate our speakers allowing us to do that. And that's a fantastic option, because I know we're going to get lots of information, and you're going to want to come back and listen to everything that our speakers have to say this morning. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce everyone, and then we'll dive in. First, Olivia Owens is the creator and general manager of IFundWomen of Color, the platform for women of color to raise capital through crowdfunding, grants, coaching, and the connections needed to launch and grow successful businesses. This funding ecosystem is designed to empower early-stage women entrepreneurs and bridge the funding gap for women of color. Olivia was a founding team member of IFundWomen and managed business development and partnership. IFundWomen launched in 2016 and continues to help women raise millions of dollars in capital. Before launching IFundWomen of Color, Olivia's leadership brokered critical partnerships to help scale the business, such as Unilever, Visa, and Adidas. She supported the creation of IFundWomen proprietary coaching program and helped build out one of the nation's largest connected communities of women business owners throughout the platform. Olivia previously held positions at Under Armour in People and Culture and received a bachelor's degree in journalism from University of Maryland. Olivia, thank you so much for being here. Before we jump into your presentation, Olivia, I would like to introduce the Power Pump Girls. So Sherin Dawud and Raina Vallot are the founder of Power Pump Girls, which was created in 2017 with the belief that women are better together. They created their social club for women to network and build relationships that ultimately impact culture. Over the years, Power Pump Girls evolved from a local social club that hosted events to a social impact club that now has outreach, programming, and advocates for women's rights issues statewide here in Louisiana. So with that, ladies, thank you so much for being here. And Olivia, I'll hand the baton over to you and tell us more about your organization.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here today to talk all things crowdfunding. If you're not familiar with IFundWomen, as we mentioned in the opening, we are the go-to funding marketplace for women-owned businesses and the people who want to fund them. At the top, I'm just going to take you through kind of how we approach fundraising with our entrepreneurs, walk you through our method for crowdfunding, and then I get to dig into how Power Pump Girls successfully raise funds for their businesses. So really excited for this conversation. We love to start with the problem that we're solving. So the reality is women-led startups receive less than 3% of VC dollars. For Black women-led startups, that's less than 1%. We also like to mention that the reality is the majority of startups, only 1% of founders, regardless of their gender, raise venture capital. So the question remains, what are the 99% of startups supposed to do to raise capital for their businesses? In terms of the funding options that are out there, I'm sure you all have heard of many of these. The first one being self-funding, using your own funds to push your business forward, whether that's simply securing your domain name, building your first website. That's all self-funding your business to push it forward. We firmly believe you shouldn't go into debt funding the earliest days of your startup, which is why we're so dogmatic about crowdfunding, but we'll get there. We also love grants at IFundWomen, a non-dilutive debt-free capital option that funds capital directly into your business. We partner with different companies to do grants for entrepreneurs. Our most recent grant program with American Express funded 100 Black women founders with 25K grants. I think that's such a big and important number. If you look at the data, Black women doing businesses, that their average annual revenue is 24K. So that type of investment into Black women doing businesses is substantial and significant. And so we just launched a new grant program with Gusto. So I would definitely say if you're looking for grants, IFundWomen is the place to keep your eye on for different opportunities that come up. There are also small business loans pre-COVID, particularly for women. This came with lower loan amounts and higher interest rates. A small business loan may be something that you explore down the line. Again, we believe in the earliest days you shouldn't go into debt. We see crowdfunding as a way to prove demand for your product or service before you invest in supply. We know the majority of startups fail. We're all about feeling fast and feeling cheap. And crowdfunding is a low risk way to accomplish that. And then there are equity investors. Many of the entrepreneurs that we work with step into entrepreneurship because they're looking to maintain control of their business, be the decision maker. And when you bring investors on, you're relinquishing some of that. And so again, down the line, depending on what your kind of longer term vision for your business is, if you're looking to scale really quickly, make some type of exit, equity investors may be a great way for you to accomplish that quick scale that you're looking for. For those of you who are not familiar with crowdfunding, we're going to start with the very, very basics. Crowdfunding is when you raise small increments of money from lots of people that you know that adds up to just enough money to achieve a specific goal. And by a specific goal, you want to think about what is the obstacle that's in front of me right now. Crowdfunding isn't a tool to fund the next 5 years of your business, but it is a tool to help you get to the next step. So whether that is building out the prototype for your app or manufacturing the first line of your product, or getting the funds you need to open the physical space that you're looking to create, crowdfunding is a tool that you can accomplish to do those types of things. And that helps you figure out, okay, how much do I need to raise? What's the minimum I need to be able to do my first order for my clothing line? Or what's the minimum I need to raise to be able to build out that prototype? So as we go through this presentation and as you start thinking about what types of questions you want to ask, I'd love for you to kind of think about what is the thing in my business that I could use crowdfunding to accomplish. And so we see entrepreneurs leverage crowdfunding for a variety of different reasons. I mentioned the ability to prove demand for your product or service before you invest in supply. The most important thing when you have a business idea is you can share it with your friends and family. They may say that's a great idea, I love it, but you want to make sure that people are actually interested in paying for the thing that you're creating. And again, crowdfunding gives you that structure to test that out. We talked about building a prototype. I think one of the more traditional reasons to crowdfund is to pre-tail your product or service, relinquish that kind of expectation of instant gratification. When people invest in a crowdfunding campaign, they know they're investing in something that will come to them later on. They're investing in an idea, in a vision. And so that's why many people use it to pre-tail. Another reason to crowdfund is driving sales and marketing. Crowdfunding is truly a marketing tactic for your business. It gives you something to talk about for a 30 to 45 day window, and you have a clear action item for people to take, a clear call to action. We also see entrepreneurs leverage crowdfunding to raise a pre-seed round. So we've seen people raise like the first 25K, have a reward on their campaign where they offer angel investors first look at their deck if they want to get first dibs at the round. There are different ways that you can leverage it. And we see crowdfunding as that first stop on your funding journey. It's also an opportunity to build buzz and awareness. While running a crowdfunding campaign in itself isn't necessarily newsworthy, you do have the opportunity to tie into other angles for press opportunities and then push people to your campaign and reach a broader audience than just your network. Some people will never raise venture capital, and that's totally okay. And so crowdfunding becomes a tool that you can leverage. And then last, but certainly not least, avoid going into debt, particularly in the midst of the pandemic, avoid going out of business. Crowdfunding can be that kind of bridge capital to help you keep going. All right, so I think one of the key differentiators for IFundWomen as a crowdfunding platform and what sets our entrepreneurs up for success is we've built out what we call the IFundWomen method, which are the 4 steps that we take entrepreneurs through in advance of launching their campaign. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about crowdfunding is that you can just throw the campaign up there and the money will come. That's definitely not the case. There's work that you need to do on the upfront to set yourself up for success. And so the nice thing about these steps is that it's work that you need to be doing for your business anyway. It's not pulling you away from kind of your main focus and what's important. The steps that you take to prep for a crowdfunding campaign parallel to the steps that you take to lay the foundation of your business. The first step being honing your pitch, getting really clear on your messaging around the problem that you're solving and how your product or service solves that problem, explaining why you're uniquely qualified to start and run this business, and what these funds are going to help you to accomplish. Your pitch also doubles as your video script. So if you've taken a look at crowdfunding campaigns before, you know there's a video component to them. And so your pitch allows you to get your messaging down for that video as well. The second piece is your network map. So the majority of the people who contribute to your crowdfunding campaign are people that you know, or people who have been exposed to your brand before. And so I think your network tends to be kind of this cerebral, intangible thing that you have. And so this process allows you to get your network down on paper, particularly if you maybe don't have your CRM set up yet. This is a great force function to do the early steps of that. It gives you your roadmap for where these funds are going to come from. Your network map also helps you identify the different buckets of your network, from your friends, family, existing customer base, fellow entrepreneurs, communities that you're a part of. And once you understand that, that's when you can start building your reward strategy. So your reward strategy is the products, services, content, experiences that you're going to sell in exchange for cash for your business. The great thing about crowdfunding is there is no equity exchange. The great thing about rewards-based crowdfunding is it really is just in exchange of services and products. And so you want to make sure you have rewards that speak to all of those different buckets of your network. And to give an example of that, let's say you are building a tech app for moms. And so you know that the moms in your network might want first dibs at the app. Maybe they want to be your beta testers. You know that there are non-moms in your network. So you want to think about the other things that you can offer them. Let's say in your 9 to 5, you're a marketing expert. So you're going to offer the entrepreneurs in your network marketing consultations or a workshop or social media help. Let's say you also on the side are a yoga teacher, and you know your friends and family love to do yoga with you, so you sell them virtual yoga sessions. It allows you to diversify the different things that you can offer in exchange. The most important piece of your reward strategy is that you're adding value to the people in your network in some way, and you can get super creative with it. I think the other valuable thing is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have so many campaigns on our platform that you can take a look and see what they offered and figure out how you can customize that to your business and your audience. And then the last piece is your audience messaging or your marketing strategy. So it can take 6 to 7 touches to get somebody to convert on your campaign. Posting on social is important, sending email blasts is important, but you also need to hit people on that one-to-one level. I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is we are extremely used to the messaging that we receive being relevant to us. As uncomfortable as it may be to have a conversation and then get an ad for that same thing that you were just talking about, it also means that the information that's coming to you is hyper relevant to your interest. And so as targeted and curated you can be in your messaging to the different parts of your network, what you're saying to your friends and family is going to be different than what you're saying to the community that you're building, which is going to be different than what you're saying to your colleagues. So just coming up with messaging that is unique to those different audiences. The amazing thing about this method is we have a playbook that you can use to build these things out. We have a pitch script template that's set up like a Mad Libs for your pitch. We have a network mapping tool that allows you to figure out realistically, based on all of my different sales channels, how many people can I get to convert. We have a P&L that allows you to put in the different rewards and the price points that you want to hit to figure out, okay, if I sell all of these things at these price points, what's my net revenue going to be? And then we also have a audience messaging tool that allows you to kind of map out that different messaging. We'll definitely send out the link to that playbook after the fact. Whether you're crowdfunding or not, there are definitely resources in there that you can leverage that'll be helpful. And I think part of what we're going to get to talk about today is that outside of just the funding, there's so much that you take away from crowdfunding for your business. We constantly hear from our entrepreneurs who do it. They walked away with the confidence to pitch their business. They walked away with a better understanding of their target customer and their needs. They walk away with additional exposure for their brand. So crowdfunding really is a multi-use tool. And so what we know is, while the majority of women cite a lack of access to capital as a top challenge to launching and growing their business, almost half of women cite a lack of access to mentors and advisors, and a third cite a lack of access to a support system. I think particularly as we navigate through the pandemic, entrepreneurship can feel even more isolating. And so being able to tap into a community is really valuable, which is why we've built a holistic approach to fundraising. So I talked about how we have our crowdfunding platform and our grants. We also have a coaching platform that you can leverage at all stages of your business, even if you're not ready to raise funds and you're really looking for that support of how do I monetize my products and services, or how do I set up my Google Analytics. You can work one-on-one with IFundWomen coaches. We also do free workshops where we bring in outside experts. We have a workshop coming up with Shopify. That's going to be amazing. So we have so many resources for you to leverage and take advantage of. We also support you from a creative standpoint. We have video production services. We have page design services so that you can present your business with the best foot forward. And then we have a Slack network that you can join where you can connect with other entrepreneurs navigating this journey, some who may be ahead of you, some who may be behind you, and kind of gain value from people outside of your industry and both inside your industry as well. And that is it from me. There will be a ton of time for Q&A at the end as well. And so I'm going to pass it off to the ladies from PowerPump.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Yes, thank you, Olivia, for that great summation of IFundWomen. You can ask anyone that we know. We can't speak highly enough about this platform and all of you on the team there and how supportive you guys have been through our crowdfunding journey. And so before we play our video, do we want to talk a little bit about why we decided to crowdfund?
Sure.
Do we want to jump into the video?
And we'll do it
Okay.
after. So we will share our screen. Let's see. And then we will full screen it. Asking $100,000. We are PowerPump Girls, and we're boldly asking for $100,000. And here's why. If you know us, then you already know. But if you don't, here's a quick introduction. We are women. We are diverse. We are millennials. We are mothers. We are boss babes. We are activists. We are dope. We are leaders. We are hustlers. We are the story. So sit tight while we tell you the story and while we need you for the next steps. We saw a need in the world. Millennial women want a space to make meaningful connections with one another and leave a lasting footprint in their communities. In fact, 71% of women says that women empowerment organizations provide a space for them to become more connected to others. Being connected is a thing because 78% of women state they feel more optimistic about the future after being connected with one another. Making a better future by connecting women to one another, that's a big undertaking. But we accepted that challenge, so now it's time to hustle. So with lots of early mornings, late nights, and community love, we work to elevate the women in our community ready to serve. we created Secure, an initiative dedicated to providing under-resourced women with the period care products they need each month. We enlisted ambassadors to collect donations and set up drives that have secured over 11,000 products. We also partnered with local officials and organizations to highlight periods, not hide them. Then we launched a merch line to connect a community of hustlers, go-getters, and dreamers. We knew it, those hustlers turned into voters and even allies. By mobilizing voters and allies, we've rallied behind several campaigns to disrupt inequity and leave women standing tall on the right side of history. We wake up every morning to give women not only a space, but a voice. But it took more than coffee and Cardi B to get this done. We developed our RIM process, meaning we rally women together to create awareness and advocacy, educate them with relevant updates, research, subject matter experts, and mobilize. We literally create the opportunities for them to get involved and create a ripple of change in their area. Sounds like a lot, right? But let's talk about what we did and what's next. It's time to hustle harder. We can't do it without you. With your donations, you'll help us create a bigger impact. Each month, we lovingly work a combined 120 hours to run PPG. But reaching our goals means turning that 120 into 320. That means more secured campaigns, more workshops, more merch that matters. We have a local community of 700 plus women. That's a major footprint, period. But imagine how many women we could mobilize with more funding. Let's stop imagining and do it. Once we meet our goal, we'll develop a digital lounge where women can connect, find social impact opportunities, and provide resources for women by women. E-courses, events, directories, you get it. It's time to reach, connect, teach, and mobilize these women in the 78%, and we're ready. You should know this by now, but we've never been women to shy away from a challenge. So we're asking for $100,000 to serve the underserved, to empower the world changers, and to do what we do best, hustle. So this is our story. What's yours? Help us continue the story. Donate now and follow our IFundWomen profile.
Yay! Are we back? Can everybody see us? Thumbs up? Cool. Okay, cool. So yeah, that was our pitch video for our IFundWomen crowdfunding campaign, which was really fun to put together. And for us, I know a lot of people crowdfund when they're starting up their company, but Power Pump Girls has been in existence since 2017. We were just in a space where we needed to raise capital for the next phase of our company. And so that's also a time when people can decide to crowdfund, and it's a great way to get that influx of funds and brand awareness for wherever you're trying to take that next step for your company.
And so if you saw the video, you saw that we were boldly asking for $100,000. And we did not hit that goal. However, we were not as strategic, and we did not use the IFundWomen layout that Olivia was just speaking on to the best of our abilities. We thought we could cheat the system, and I remember us giving Olivia a call. One of the great things about IFundWomen is that they are there to help you. And they don't just say that, they truly mean it. And so we were able to hop on a call with Olivia and walk through our playbook, how many people were in our network, what we thought people would give at, and all of those things truly led us back to a number that was more true to who and where we were on our journey. And I believe that number was closer to around like $38,000. And we had reached that number. And so it's really important that when you are crowdfunding, that you're optimistic, but you're also very realistic, because, you know, of course we all want to raise $1 million. Of course we all want to go do all these great things, but you have to set yourself up for success. And so a lot of that comes with the pre-work that goes into it prior to launching. So we can kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and for us too, like that, we didn't reach the goal we first set out, but it's going to help us leverage additional funds, having raised what we did through our crowdfund. So that's important to keep in mind. But for us, kind of building up anticipation for the campaign is what helped us to be successful, because we weren't just starting from the beginning. We had built a brand and people kind of knew what Power Pump Girls did. Telling the story of Power Pump Girls up to the point of launch really helped people connect and feel as though they wanted to be a part of this next phase with crowdfunding. So we leveraged our market and we did a lot of social media pushes, and we did something called From the Founders. And so people love to hear our founders' story. They love to hear what we were doing behind the scenes with Power Pump Girls. So we started bringing in other female founders to just tell their story, but we'd always tie it back into, hey, we're crowdfunding. Don't forget, on this launch date, we're going to be crowdfunding for the next phase of our company. And that really got people excited and kind of bought in before there was ever a chance to even contribute.
One of the things that in your playbook that you kind of go through is you build out your network list. And so in building out that list, you get to identify some key players that are going to be really pivotal. And while you think, everyone is going to give to your campaign and that people are going to support, which they did, but a lot of support came from people that we did not know. Our reach was much further than our city and our state. So through what we were able to do, we put together this video. We did a lot of different layers of marketing. Like Raina said, we did the pre-launch, then we launched a video. That video gave us 25,000 views. The impressions were insane. We got crazy follows from actresses like Zooey Deschanel. We got Wayfair reached out to us, Bumble reached out to us, and we were being able to have conversations about how we leverage our brand using this platform and what it is that we're setting out to do.
Yeah, so it was really great for brand awareness, but then also just telling or allowing our mission and vision to be beyond just our state and our city, which is one of our goals for our company anyway. And so the crowdfunding campaign was so much more than just the funding. It was a lot of brand awareness and just building the community of Power Pump Girls and what that meant for the country.
So one of the, I do want to talk about a misconception that we had and why it took us so long to crowdfund in general, was we're a 501c3. We are a nonprofit. And when you hear about people raising venture capital or crowdfunding even, you think of companies. The only time you think of nonprofits raising money in that way, it's when they're doing GoFundMes or when it's like Raina and I were talking earlier, it's reactionary, right? Like something bad happens and you want to raise some money to close a gap. And so we've never really counted ourselves in that space as, we can crowdfund. And it wasn't until doing more research and finding IFundWomen. So everyone that knows about Power Pump Girls, they know that, we're a community of women for women. And so for us, it was very important to find a crowdfunding platform that also had that same mission, because we know how we are with our community of women and how we step up. And so we wanted to find a company that would also be willing to step up for us in those gaps. And I mean, we can't speak highly enough of how they stepped up. But you were going to say
and I just think it speaks really highly of founders or business owners. How well you can tell your story and connect to others is how successful your business will be. Even from the onset of Power Pump Girls, when we had zero funding and it was Sherin and I putting our own money into the company and trying to grow it, the support we did get, although it was a lot smaller in scale, was because people believed in us and they believed in our vision. And so I think for anyone who's interested in crowdfunding or considering raising capital for their company, being able to hone in on your story and why this is so important, why you believe in your company, is going to be what attracts people to want to have that buy-in again, whether it's from sharing on social media to actually donating to a crowdfund, whatever that gamut that's run. The value is in you being able to tell your founder story and why your company is bringing value to the world.
And so whether it's a side hustle or a company or just a project, really be thinking about where you are in the space of funding. And IFundWomen did not pay me to say this, but I would highly suggest, if you're a woman, especially if you're a woman of color, to go with IFundWomen. The grant opportunities that Olivia spoke on are pivotal. We just happen to be blessed and fortunate enough to receive 2 of those grants. One of them being the Caress grant, which was for $2,500, and then the American Express grant, which was for the $25,000. And it goes past that funding because it's also a cohort of women. It's a real network. We're in the Slack channels. When we have questions about scaling our company or who we should connect with for this, there is literally a community of people that you can ping and text or email and get some of those answers. And then going into the American Express thing, we were more than shocked when we got that call. And so, in January, we were able to learn and glean from 100 other women that look like us, that are going to be able to experience the same thing at the same time and growing their companies, especially during, we're still in a pandemic. There's all types of financial crisis happening. And so, I would look to a company that's going to really provide you more than just a platform to crowdfund on.
Yeah, and I think Olivia, did you have some questions for us before we kind of went into Q&A with all of our listeners?
Yeah, I think you touched on a couple of them, but I would love to hear what some of the unexpected learnings you had from leveraging your crowdfunding campaign were.
Well, one I think Sherin did speak to was that crowdfunding wasn't for us, was something that we kind of had to overcome. And I guess that was a misconception as well, but we did not expect so much support in crowdfunding, and we did not expect that this platform would be such an incubator of a space for us. It was very challenging, and I think for us, we didn't realize how much would go into it before launch.
That part.
And it's because our understanding of crowdfunds before was that it was reactionary. You just throw up a page and people find it on their own, and that's not the truth at all. There's a lot of back end work that goes into it. Even just the one component of the video took a lot of planning and building out the reward strategy and all of that. So knowing that if you're asking people to fund your company or to support you financially, there has to be a lot of thought behind it. And that was a great learning lesson for us moving forward with raising more capital, and then just with any business venture, knowing that the thought you put into it will turn into that value you're looking for in the end.
Yeah, I love it. And I kind of along the same lines of what I was talking about it being more than just the funding. You kind of mentioned kind of the exposure, the brand awareness that you got. Were there other things outside of the funding that you learned for your business, maybe in terms of like how you're running it, how you're going to proceed, what your customers need? Kind of what were some of the things that came out of it?
One of the things that we really learned was how to better tell our brand story, how to pitch our company. That first sheet on the playbook really breaks it down for you. I cannot tell you how many hours we spent like creating V1, V2, V5, V7, and we're like, oh my God, it's just gonna keep changing. And so I think that was really, a really big thing for us.
I love it. I love it. That's amazing. And I think one of the pieces about the pitch that we recognize is your pitch is a living, breathing document. Once you have that draft down, IFundWomen updates its pitch, I want to say like once a quarter. Like it's a thing that you continue to adjust and hone. And I think one of the other things, particularly if you're in the earlier stages of your business, niching down the target audience that you're looking to reach, and it'll obviously expand as you move forward, but making sure that the people you're speaking to know that you're speaking to them. While your platform may be great for women, IFundWomen is great for women entrepreneurs, but even more specifically, early stage entrepreneurs. And even more specifically, when we were just getting started, we were looking for women who had a certain level of network that they could leverage. And then as we move forward, we could build the tools to help them build the network that they could leverage so we could reach more people. So if you're struggling kind of with your pitch and making sure that you're reaching as many people as possible, my suggestion would be to start small and then build out from there.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I know you all had some key takeaways that you wanted to share before we jump into Q&A. Want to go for it?
Sure. So again, we did not know what we were jumping into before we jumped into it. That is typically how our lives go. And so in our nature, what we always do is we revisit the lessons that we were, where we failed and where we were successful. And we're really, really like to share those things with other people, especially for those who may not have been on this journey and are hoping to. So one of the main pieces, so number one is clarity. Clear goals and use of those funds. So going back to we were aiming for 100,000, but we weren't really strategic about how we were going to raise that $100,000. So just being very clear of the vision and how you plan on getting there.
Yeah, and of that 100,000, although we shot for the stars and then scaled back, we actually ended up raising a total of like 50,000, which was the most we had gotten for our company since its inception. And then also in the wake of COVID-19. So for us, that was a big accomplishment. Although we set the bar sky high, kind of had to scale back, we were still able to generate a lot of funds for a company that are going to help sustain us through this year and then continue scaling. So still having those clear goals from the onset are helpful, but you never know where you could land once you even set those.
Yep.
And for that, our next kind of takeaway was to set smart incentives. And so IFundWomen does a great job of giving you ideas as far as how you can incentivize people giving to your campaign. It is smart to do things like Olivia said that maybe don't cost you as much, maybe things you already offer on the side. We, having already had a merch line, we're like, we're going to do a whole new merch line. In retrospect, probably wasn't the best idea because we had to go and buy those products and get them out to all of the donors. But it was great for brand awareness. So just being smart about how you're incentivizing giving will help you even more along the way.
Number three, pre-market yourself. You do not have to be a marketing agency to do this and to do this well. Just be very clear about before you launch, how are you getting that buzz out to people? How are you doing it through social media? Are you doing it through your MailChimp? Are you doing it through speaking panels? How are you creating that buzz prior to? Because people like that sense of being teased and wanting to know what's coming next. Like they keep talking about this thing, but what is this thing? And creating that buy-in early on gets people really excited, especially going back to that clarity piece, when you can give them a direct channel to what their funds are going to help support. Because at the end of the day, people believe in people and they want to support what it is that you're doing. And when you're passionate about what you do, people are more incentivized to give.
Yep. Our next one is to take it offline. So imagine a world, which is really scary, but where there's no technology, no social media, but you still have this business to run and you still have this company to scale. How are you talking about it? How are you bringing it to life in those conversations? Although COVID-19 is a thing right now, making sure you're just having those personal conversations over the phone, via text message, any and every point where you can bring it up in conversation, pre-launch, during, and even after. Talk about it and make it almost like normalized that people are hearing this coming out of your mouth at all times. We were a broken record for a long time, but people understood how passionate we were because of it. And so take that campaign, take that crowdfund initiative offline and be real about it in your day-to-day.
Yeah, and I know that scares a lot of people. It scared us. You don't want to sound too salesy or too pitchy. And it can definitely be overwhelming because then that imposter syndrome comes. It's like, dude, do we have to say this again today? Do we have to? And the answer is yes. Yes, you do. Your business has to thrive. You have to thrive. And the only way people can find out about it is if you talk about it. And so our last takeaway is use your networks. So we have friends from all over the country. I'm sure people here are watching. You have friends from all over the country, family. That one person you met in a coffee shop 6 years ago. Being able to create and build relationships matter. And so what we pride ourselves on is building lasting relationships with people, even if we only had that coffee 6 years ago. And saying, hey, look, this is where I am. How can you help me? Do you have someone that that would be interested in funding a project like this? And just being okay with, again, pitching and having those conversations with their friends, because those are people that you do not know. And so what we found was that our network was really, really pivotal in our crowdfunding campaign. And it was just because people are inspired by people who are fearless, even though we all know that it's not true. But people are really interested in saying, you know what, that person has that thing. And you know what, that inspires me. And I want to be a part of that. And, you know, we called our crowdfunding campaign, We Are the Story, because as Olivia mentioned with her opening slides, you know, Black women receive less than 1%. And we are that story. We, like Raina said, this is the most money we've raised. And as excited as we are about it, that's still an issue. You know, like we want more. We want to be able to do more. And that takes capital, and it takes funding, and it takes sharing your story with not only your network, because those people know you, but their networks, because they don't. And so, yeah.
And equipping those people in your network to be able to share the story.
Yes.
We were really intentional about giving like a toolkit with saying the same language over and over again, giving them social media templates or things to share, like equipping them with a toolkit essentially to be able to regurgitate this and share it to their networks only makes it easier. If they believe in you as people and you're giving them the tools to continue sharing whatever it is you need, it only just has ripple effects with success. So,
Yep. That was our 5 takeaways. Lauren?
Great. Thank y'all. Great presentations from all three of y'all. Thank y'all so much. And we have some questions as well. If you have questions for our panelists, just please put it in the Q&A section and we will get to them. So the first question is asked about, so that she's gone through all the steps, but she's stuck on developing a video and marketing material. Can you provide some, what are some resources that she could use to develop those?
Yeah, so happy to jump in here. I think it depends on kind of the position that you're in. I think if you are able to outsource those things and understand your strengths and your weaknesses, then go the route and find somebody who can support you with that. I think one of the bigger pieces is, as you're going through your network mapping process, are there people in your network who could support you in that way? I think we underestimate how much we can leverage the people in our community. And so maybe instead of asking them to contribute to the campaign, it's asking them to help you get this video done. I also mentioned IFundWomen does video production services. We try to come in at a price point that's as reasonable as possible. I think they're $1,500 videos and high quality, and we support you virtually, understanding we're in the pandemic, but I think those are two of the options. We also have a crowdfunding e-course that's free to leverage, and we include tips in there on how to DIY your video using your iPhone and different tools and resources. So I think the biggest thing is just make the ask and put it out there that you're looking support in this area, and the resources are out there to help you get there.
Yeah, we'll just echo Olivia and say for our crowdfund specifically, we that's exactly how we attacked it. We had someone contribute their services to help us with the video, along with some of our graphic design. And so that was their contribution to our crowdfund. And we made sure to thank them as part of the marketing behind the campaign and shout them out so that they could get potential business. So it's all about, again, that network and really building those relationships and showing them that you value them as a person and what they bring to the table. And then they will show you in turn how they value you.
Great. Also want to let everyone know, back in October for our Tech Park Academy, we did talk about creating videos with your iPhones and some resources. Some of them are free resources that you can use, and some tips and tricks as far as audio and video go on how to create a good video. So great, thank you. So can y'all talk a little bit about how much it costs to do this? I mean, admin fees, video, and then also probably the most important thing is how much time does it take?
Sure, we can hop in from our experience, and we were fortunate enough to be able to have a community of people that supported us. I honestly think we spent $0 on the video, throwing up our landing page on IFundWomen. Where our money was spent was on those incentives. So like the things that we sent out for people to actually fund us. And total, we might have spent less than $1,000.
Yeah.
Less than $1,000. But time-wise, it was definitely a time sucker. We didn't realize how much time would go into it. And the good thing is that IFundWomen has done most of the work for you. It's just like Olivia said, like it's plug and play. And so maybe, how many hours would you say? Ooh, or maybe think of like it in weeks or.
Well, we did a 6-week sprint
Yes.
to prep for this,
Yeah.
but I would say comfortably 2.5 months time and planning this out and really like gearing yourself up for a successful launch. Again, we love to just do things the hard way and learn afterwards, but 6 weeks was possible for us. And then funding wise, it only cost us about $1,000 to $1,500 to do in totality.
Yeah, and I think that the more work you do in the upfront creates less work that you have to do once the campaign is launched, because then you're just going to be executing on the strategy. And also part of the math that you're doing in terms of how much you're going to raise is factoring in what are the out-of-pocket costs that I'm going to have to incur, so you can make that back up in the campaign. And I think that's the most exciting part about this, is that you can account for those costs in how much you're raising.
Yep, that's exactly right. There's definitely a sheet in there that helps you to calculate your ROI. And so where, you may you ask for $100 at a certain level after you plug in your incentives, the sheet automatically maths for you. So if you're not a math person like us, it tells you like, look, at this $100 level, you'll actually be getting $78 from this, and it all auto populates.
And I will say one of the things that we loved about the IFundWomen platform was like, as the funding was coming in, it was depositing into our account. So we're literally like, oh my goodness, we have all this funding we've never had before. Like it was almost real time. So that was exciting. And to see that the work we put in before launch was actually coming to fruition was really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's another big piece to mention. So we've built an extremely flexible platform to meet the needs of our entrepreneurs. So you're able to adjust your goal if you need to. You're able to extend out the campaign. You're able to introduce new rewards throughout. And the funds do hit your account as they come through. So it's not a use it or lose it model. Even if you don't hit your goal, you get to keep the funds. You're just responsible for delivering on what people purchase.
That's great. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the process? Is it a multi-tiered launch, pre-launch video, et cetera, or do you put it all up at one time?
Yeah, so I'm sure they can talk to kind of their experience and how they executed. But the way we talk about it is you have this 30 to 45 day window where you're running this campaign. You're going to see the highest amount of contributions at the beginning and the end, and you need a strategy for that middle on how you're going to keep people engaged. And I think one of the pieces to remember is we are all the protagonists of our own story. So even if you feel like you've already mentioned this, they've definitely seen the post, they know about it, they have moved on to other things, they've gotten distracted, and you need to follow back up with them. And so your multi-tiered process is figuring out what those 6 to 7 touches are going to be. And so it's not about putting it all out there at once. It's about what are all of the different stories that I can tell for the duration of this campaign to get people engaged. We like to use the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the content you're putting out there is value add and 20% is selling. And so that storytelling ability to talk about why you chose crowdfunding, why you chose IFundWomen, why you started this business, the realities of access to capital, all of those different things that you think people already know, they don't. And so it's a way for you to storytell and engage them without just doing the hard sell consistently.
Yeah, and so that's what we were thinking along like our journey to whoever asked that question was, we definitely wanted to go with a multi-tiered launch. So we suggested just because we felt like that buildup really helped our day one of our launch. And then like Olivia said, it gets a little dead and quiet in the center. And we for sure did, because we took it offline. We were talking to bigger donors. We were, asking like, hey, look, this is what we're doing. Here's the link, here's this. So in that multi-tiered launch, I think you should definitely incorporate an offline strategy. And then also you bring it back in the middle. You're always pushing. I think there was only one time that we put ad dollars behind a post. And so besides that, yeah, definitely.
And it goes back to equipping your network. So we did a lot of the front end push, but then we're like, okay, for you donors that have already given, if you're not comfortable with giving again, here's how you can help us. And so equipping them to continue the momentum was really amazing. And I think that kind of taps into the next question of like, how much was funded via our network versus other people. But equip, like you do the first big push and have that strategy, take it offline, equip the network that's already funded you to continue the work, and then wrap it up with a strong close.
Okay, great. Can you talk a little bit about your network? How many of your funders were your original, from your original network who probably knew about Power Pump Girls before y'all started? And then what percentage of that were new?
That's a good question. I'd say about 70 to 80% were people we knew or like knew loosely in some way. And then 25 or to 30% were new people to knowing Power Pump Girls. But of that 25 to 30%, that included some really big brand partners. And so American Express, Verizon, some of these companies that came to us later in the crowdfund were like, hey, we want to partner with your organization. We want to help fund you, whatever the case may be. So majority of it were people we knew or knew of or had like one degree of separation. And that's the beauty of it. People believe in you and they want to spread the message of what it is you're doing. But then we did have a good bit that we were like, wow, we didn't know these people. And it may be more, I'm kind of just shooting in the dark based on the names I remember seeing funding us. But it was exciting to see new people, new locations. People were messaging us throughout the crowdfund. Hey, I'm in Washington State and I see the work you're doing in Louisiana. Love to support, super excited about it. So yeah, that was our experience and it was fun.
Yeah, and how we recommend approaching that is your goal, the initial goal that you should set should be based on your network and view everything else as gravy on top. Having a campaign that surpasses its goal and you create stretch goals where maybe your initial goal is 30K, and then you say, okay, we're extending it out, we're going for 40K building, but you want to make sure that the goal you set is a goal that you can hit, because from an optics lens, it's much more exciting to completely crush and surpass that goal than to like scrape by and just get there. And again, we've built it to be flexible so that you can adjust the optics, but that's how we recommend approaching it.
Olivia, while we're talking about goals, is there a way can you stretch out change your time goals as well? How does that work with the system?
Yeah, so what we recommend is set your initial campaign to be that 30 to 45 day window. In the beginning, we recommend doing an incognito launch where you're just going out to a specific segment of your network first, whether that be your existing customers or your friends and family. And then that way, when you launch publicly, you already have money in the bank. People are followers. They do things after they see other people doing them. So being able to go public with 1K, 2K, 3K already funded, they're going to be like, oh, wow, she's killing it. Let me take a look at what she's doing. And then coming towards the end of your campaign, you want to create that countdown. You want to create that sense of urgency, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days left. And then you're able to say, hey, great news. We were able to extend our campaign out for a week. If you didn't get in during the initial launch, here's your opportunity. So again, the platform's super flexible so that you can adjust those dates and really leverage the optics.
Okay, great. We have about 4 more minutes left and have a few more questions. Can you talk about the benefits or the issues of promoting your product or services with multiple crowdfunding sites?
Yeah, so we get this question often. It's absolutely possible to run multiple crowdfunding campaigns. We've seen that, but not simultaneously. It's already hard enough to get people to do one thing. You don't want to mix messaging and say, hey, here are these 3 different links that you can go to. You want to make sure they have clear calls to actions. So it is something that's possible. We just would say not doing it simultaneously.
Great. And sorry, going back to talking about timelines, is there a typical timeline? 30 days, 20 days?
Yeah, so it's that 30 to 45 day window. And then I would say the people who raise 6 figures are typically closer to 6 to 8 doing those extensions. But 30 to 45 days is the initial window, and about 4 to 6 weeks for prep, depending on what assets you already have ready for your business.
Okay, and then can the Power Pump girls, talk a little bit about the stuff you gave away. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading this morning.
Rewards, yeah.
The rewards. Did you have those before you started the campaign, or did you just kind of grow into those?
Both. So there was some that were free to us. We had some like downloadables that we offered. We had a playlist that was already put together that we were sending out. But then some of the things that we'd have to purchase, like the shirts, we waited until we had a gauge of how many people would need the shirts. Same with a poster we did. So some of them we already had like ready to go. And even some that were like consulting services through partners. They're like, you get a free 30-minute consultation. Those are things we had, you know, kind of at the ready, but things that we needed to purchase, like the shirts, the tote bags, we waited until we had an idea of how many of those things we would need and the funding to buy them until we issued them out. So a little of both.
Olivia, do you have any suggestions for best practices for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the point that I made about crowdfunding. There isn't that expectation of instant gratification. It's super important to be transparent about when they can expect to receive it, but you are able to wait until you have the funds to then be able to put in the order or whatever it is, so that you understand, okay, how many people bought this reward? How many of these do I need to order? So it does give you that flexibility.
Great. We have time for one more question. I think this is a fantastic question. And Olivia, you just talked about it. Transparency. How do you show your public, your people that funded you, that you've done what you said you were going to do?
Yeah, so in the short term, the most important thing for you to deliver on is the reward that they purchased. So if they bought the t-shirt, if they bought the downloadable, making sure you get them in their hands. But we have a functionality on our platform where you're able to send updates to your funders. So you can keep them updated on your process. I would also create probably like an email segment in your email marketing tool to provide business updates from the crowdfund to keep people engaged. And like maybe there are other initiatives that you have coming along, and it helps them stay a part of your network and stay in tune with what's going on, and allows you to continue telling that story.
Great.
Yeah, and for us, it's always been a matter of accountability and vulnerability. So we're really big on our social media platform and our newsletter and talking about the progress we've made with Power Pump Girls since getting this funding, and just making sure people are still connected to the story. We're not asking you for your money necessarily, but we want you to still have that buy-in and that interest in what our organization is doing, because you have been a part of it up to this point.
Okay, great. And then finally, how can people find you after this video, whether online or social media?
Yeah, so you can find IFundWomen at IFundWomen. I'm at Olivia L. Owens. I would say getting on IFundWomen's newsletter as well. That's a link that we can share. Every Thursday, we kind of send out all of the need to know on what's going on in our network. But following us on Instagram is probably another great way to stay in tune.
And same for us, you can follow us on Instagram at Power Pump Girls Inc. And if you hit that link in our bio or visit our website, you can subscribe to our newsletter as well, where we send monthly updates and ways for you to stay connected with our organization.
Great. Olivia has put her information in the chat as well. So thank you for doing that. Ladies, thank y'all so much for being with us today. Great. And then Power Pump Girls is in there as well. Power Pump Girls Inc. and powerpumpgirls.org. Thank you for putting that in the chat there. Thank y'all all for, all three of y'all for being here with us today. This is fantastic information. And it's very, very crucial information and PowerPoint. So part of entrepreneurship, we need to make sure that we all support. So thank you for sharing your stories and the tools with us today. Again, I'm Stephen Loy with Nexus Louisiana Technology Park. On behalf of all of our team, Lauren included, thank you for being with us today. I do want to let you know that Baton Rouge Entrepreneurship Week is coming up January 19th through 21, and you can go to celebratebrew.com. That's celebratebrew.com for tickets and information. There's some merch there as well. And our next Tech Park Academy will be on February 25th. Hope everyone has a fantastic rest of December and bring on 2021. I think we're all ready for it. Thank y'all for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.